What happens if you make two superhero billionaires fight it out? Well, a whole lot of awesome, that's for sure. Batman and Iron Man are two of the most beloved heroes around, and they're so similar in a lot of ways that it makes us wonder what would happen if the two ended up fighting each other. Really, either or could win. But for this video, we're gonna break down exactly how Batman could beat Iron Man in a fight. Yes, we know it's all subjective, but today we're breaking down specifically the ways Batman could pull out a victory over Iron Man. Let's get into it right now. Comparing Batman to Iron Man is like comparing apples to slightly similar apples, because the two are very much alike on paper. On the surface, they're both genius billionaire playboy philanthropists who use their immense wealth and resources to save the day and be superheroes. The only difference in that regard is that the playboy persona is more of a mask for Bruce Wayne to hide his true identity, while Tony Stark is actually like that at all times. Both of them were shaped by traumatic experiences in their past that set them on the path for justice, with Bruce taking that fateful walk down a dark alley with his parents, and Tony getting a wake-up call after years of being a weapons dealer. And it's easy to call Batman the more psychologically damaged hero out of the two of them, given his dark and brooding, incredibly stoic nature. But don't forget things like the infamous Demon in a Bottle story arc from Marvel Comics that saw Tony confront his alcoholism and his own personal demons. It's not all quips and jests from Iron Man. Underneath all that armor is someone just as troubled as good old Bats. Man, does being a superhero mean having to suffer extreme trauma? It sure seems that way. If we continue to compare the two, we can't forget about their technological prowess. Tony Stark might get a lot of credit for being a genius inventor and a master of gadgets, and for good reason. His Iron Man suit is probably the single greatest piece of man-made technology on Earth. It's got to the point in the movies where Tony could just think of a weapon, and it would form around his body using nanotechnology. That certainly came a long way since his days of testing his general flight capabilities back in the first Iron Man movie. But you can't count Batman out in this field. Sure, he's more of a stealthy brawler, but just take a look at what the Joker once called his wonderful toys. His Bat utility belt is filled with little gadgets and gizmos that help make fighting crime a piece of cake for the Cape Crusader. And of course, you can't forget about all the Bat-related vehicles he has at his disposal.
Nice car. Should see my other one.
There's the Batmobile, the Batcopter, the Batplane, the Batboat, and the Bat-Bat, which is just a giant mechanical bat that can form a giant robot. Oh, okay, that last one I may have made up, but would you doubt Batman's ability to build such an awesome machine? I certainly wouldn't. And even though they're both normal, fleshy mortals, they both have gone up against some truly monstrous threats. Of course, on the film side, Tony Stark has gone toe-to-toe with the Mad Titan Thanos, and Batman has faced off against Superman. So both can hold their own in a fight, but overall I think Batman could triumph over Iron Man, and there's a few big reasons why I think that. Both Iron Man and Batman are extremely intelligent fighters, who you don't want to mess with overall. But Batman has two key skills that will set him up for victory: detective skills and preparation. Those traits I think will help the Dark Knight secure a victory over Tony Stark. Because Tony Stark lives his life as a public figure, his secrets are out in the open. He seems very transparent with the public, and therefore everything about him is always on full display. It's his openness that has led to a lot of villains to target him in the past. Just think about how in Iron Man 3, Tony openly challenged the Mandarin to come attack him at his home address. Then what happened? Well, the Mandarin attacked him at his home address, obviously. Not the smartest move, Tony. Seriously, could you imagine Bruce Wayne doing that at all? Going on live television and broadcasting the Joker, the Riddler, Two-Face, and all of Gotham's baddies where he lives and to come at him? I mean, sure, Bruce Wayne's manor is guarded because it has the unstoppable and unflappable Alfred inside, but still, it's not something Bruce would ever logically do. It's very rare for Bruce to showcase his true persona to the world around him. Everything is carefully guarded and constructed. The man that you see is the man that Bruce wants you to see. It takes an incredible amount of willpower and determination to pull this off, but Bruce is determined to live his life that way. It makes his friends and family that much safer in the long run. There's a great joke in the Arkham Asylum video games where Riddler is saying that Batman has the tech and gadgets he does because he steals money from criminals in Gotham City. The Riddler's a pretty smart guy, and even he can't figure out the obvious answer that Batman is secretly the billionaire Bruce Wayne because of how good Bruce is at guarding his secrets. Tony, on the other hand, well, he got asked once if he was Iron Man, and he blew his whole cover immediately. And because Tony is such an open book when it comes to his everyday life, it makes it even easier for Batman to suss out the strengths and weaknesses. Let's not forget one of Batman's other monikers, the world's greatest detective. That's not a trait that's been highlighted a lot in the live-action films, but it's a vital part of the character in the comics. To come up with a proper strategy against Tony Stark, Bruce would use all of his vast detective skills to figure out how to beat Tony. And that ties to the second point that would give Bruce an edge when it comes to beating Tony. Preparation is everything when you have two brilliant minds battling it out. Because although Tony is a genius, he's never been really a huge strategist in the MCU films when it comes to fighting. He either comes up with a plan on the fly, or is forced to react to the situation around him. Remember Avengers Infinity War when Tony's plan to face Thanos was to basically attack him on his home planet to surprise him? And then when they got there, they ended up listening to Peter Quill of all people. Tony really likes to just blast his way out of his problems, which is so great to watch, but could use a little bit more strategy. Compare that to Batman in his fight against Superman in Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. Here, Batman was up against the strongest person on the planet, so he had to outthink him instead. Watch the scene again where he's setting up to fight the Man of Steel, and it's super impressive. He creates an entire battleground that will be used for his attack against Superman. He's smart enough to have a few basic attacks first, that have no effect on Supes, so that Clark lets its guard down, allowing Bruce to activate the kryptonite grenades that really weaken him. That's what kind of foresight Bruce brings into every battle he's in, and what makes him so dangerous. Overall, I think that's what gives Bruce the edge here when it comes to a fight. Batman has these amazing tools at his disposal, including his gadgets, his Batmobile, and so much more, but his single strongest weapon is his tactical mind. He won't just throw a batarang for the sake of throwing a batarang. He'll throw a batarang to lower your guard so he can spring another, more devastating attack on you. As amazing as Tony's technology and suits are, I think he has to rely too heavily on his suits and his tech to win. But Batman is just a far superior fighter. But let's take into consideration how the two meet up. Let's say the Doctor Strange sequel blows open the multiverse and the DC characters and Marvel characters start interacting with one another. That would be awesome. If Batman and Iron Man met up randomly somehow and immediately started fighting, then yes, Iron Man would have the advantage. The technology available at Tony's fingertips is just too great, and no amount of smoke bombs or batarangs would be able to beat his advanced Iron Man suit. But Batman is smart enough to know he needs a better game plan. If he enters into that fight accidentally, he would know that he needs to retreat and come up with a better plan. If he's clever enough to escape, then you just know Batman would go into hardcore study mode and develop the perfect strategy to beating Iron Man. Or heck, I'm willing to give Batman the benefit of the doubt and always be prepared to fight Iron Man. Batman's the hero that had contingency strategies against every single one of the Justice League members just in case they ever went rogue. Who's to say that Batman wouldn't know about Iron Man and carry with him a piece of tech that allowed him to disable Iron Man's suit with a flick of a switch? Sure, it's a long shot, but not super unbelievable if you know the character of Batman and what he's capable of. I think it's pretty obvious that in a hand-to-hand fight, Batman would beat Tony Stark to a pulp. In the comics, Batman has mastered over 100 different styles of martial arts, including karate, taekwondo, judo, kukitsu, muay thai, and countless others. He's been training his body to become the perfect weapon since he started his mission, and there's probably not a move that you could pull on him that would be surprising. You know that song, Anything You Can Do, I Can Do Better? Yeah, that sort of feels like Batman when it comes to fighting. We'd love to see him compete on one of those gladiatorial shows like American Ninja Warrior, because we're absolutely positive he would break every single record. If Tony competed on that show, he'd probably find a way to make a funny quip, drink the whole time, and flirt with the pretty announcers. Then he'd just program a suit to do it for him. Classic Tony. So if Las Vegas ever holds a special fight between billionaires and Tony Stark and Bruce Wayne are pitted against each other mano a mano, then it doesn't take rocket science to know who to bet on. Because while Bruce probably spends all his free time training and keeping his mind and body focused and ready, Tony on the other hand is late to the game when it comes to combat training. He started his crime-fighting journey when he was much older, and hasn't really trained as much as Batman. In the comics, we know that Tony Stark has been trying to improve himself by having people like Captain America train him in fighting, but I think that it isn't enough to hold your ground in a fight against Batman. And in the movies, Tony is even less prepared to fight. I think we see him practicing fighting only once against a dummy, and that's pretty much it. So again, in hand-to-hand combat, Batman easily wins. But it's unfair to take Tony's biggest weapon away from him. Tony's designed it so the suits are basically built into him at this point, so when would Batman and Iron Man ever engage in average fisticuffs? So this is why I think Batman would construct a special suit of his own. Oh man, I'm just drooling over the idea of an Iron Man suit against a bat suit in full-on combat. How cool would that be? And it's not like there isn't any precedent for Batman using a special suit of armor. Bat armor has been used in the comics for years to give bats a little bit of an edge. And in the live-action movies, the obvious example is to look at the one he used against Superman in Batman vs. Superman. That was a suit he made that could withstand some of Superman's powers. Anyone with that ability to make a suit like that could at least go toe-to-toe with Iron Man's tech, right? Sure, Tony would integrate nanotech, but Bruce seems like the type of guy who would spend hours in his workshop, welding together rare pieces of metal into a suit that's close to unstoppable. Tony Stark may be Iron Man, but Bruce Wayne has the iron will, and overall, that's what will help him beat any opponent, including fellow geniuses, billionaires, playboys, and philanthropists. Yeah, after talking about it out loud, I definitely think Batman would win in a fight against Iron Man. But what do you think? Which superhero would win if they were forced to fight and why? Let us know in the comments, and be sure to subscribe to CBR for more awesome superhero content. Thanks for watching.